Alright guys, welcome back to BeginnersC++. This is going to be lesson numero nueve. That is actually just about the limit of my knowledge in Spanish. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I actually have to go back into my lesson plan and edit the numbers on a couple of my lessons so I don't screw up future videos. But today we're going to be talking about for and while loops, and this is going to be very interesting for you guys. For and while loops are the last sort of important building block in building actual programs. This is the final thing we need to be able to do where we learn how to make a program truly flow. So I want to begin this by showing you guys the simplest code I can. I'm going to make a simple variable called int I and set it to 0 and say while I is less than 10, cout I, and then let's do I++ on the next line. Actually, yeah, let's keep it like that for just the moment. And then let's do endl. So when we run this, we get the numbers 0 through 9, which is great. And they all print out on their own lines, which is cool. So let me explain what's happening here. This while works in the exact same way as an if, meaning that we have a while statement, and inside these parentheses there's a statement that is going to be checked every single time we get to the top of this loop. And this, statement body in here is going to execute every single time we go through. And until this statement becomes false, this is going to keep happening. So for example, if we go back to what we said about stuff earlier, and we just say while true, this is going to run forever. Actually, I digress. It won't run forever. It's actually going to run until the computer runs out of memory. And as you can see, it's not going to happen for quite some time. But it is possible to run yourself out of memory very quick using certain functions. So we'll close that. And as we can see, we need there to be some statement in here that's true. So I want to go back to our hard debugging skills here. And I want to set a breakpoint on this line. And I want to show you guys what's actually happening here. So I want to give this a run. And as you can see, we have I want to minimize, or actually I don't want to minimize that. I want to left side, right side this for you. So when we run this, we want to go and do a step into. And so now we're going to see this cout, and we're going to say step over. So we cout that 0, and we step over again, and now our value in I is equal to 1. So I++ is the exact same as saying I plus equals 1, semicolon. It just saves us just a little bit of typing. So we do I++, and each time through, it's going to keep doing that same thing. So we do step over, goes back to the top, we keep running it, keep hitting that button, step over is F10, oops, and apparently I forgot that I have a gibberish macro set up on my F10 key, so I can't spam F10 that way. Yeah, okay, it's very angry at me now. So long story short, that is how you can see what's actually happening inside of your loop. And the sort of easier way to make this happen is to, or the sort of easier way to look at this is going to continue to be running until when it is no longer true. Now, this only becomes true when I becomes 10 or greater. In this case, it printed out the numbers 0 to 10, and once I became 10, it stopped functioning. Now, I want to show you guys that we can actually make this one line of code rather than two. So we can do I++ inside the cout loop, and it works exactly the same. So when we run that, it saves us a quick line of code. So I want to show you guys a different way of doing this, and it's called a for loop. Generally, you see a lot more for loops when people are coding, and they're more robust in some ways. So let's talk about for loop. So a for loop is broken down into 3 parts. I'm going to make that really big for right now. First part is called the initialize. So typically you either make a variable or you make an iterator, which we're going to talk about way more later on, way later in the series, but you make something here. You don't have to, but a lot of people do. They make some kind of a counter variable. I always call my counters I. It's a bad habit I've gotten into, but a lot of people do it. So generally, if you see a single letter variable, it's being used as a counter. That's almost always true. So in this case, I'm actually going to comment this out because having I out here will screw with this loop. So in this case, I am going to just name it I, just because it's what I'm familiar with. Let's say I is less than 10. The second part is the comparison. Is this true? And so the third part is the iterator. So generally, that's the 3 parts of a while loop. If we come up here, we look, there's a declaration beforehand, there's a comparison happening here, and there's an iteration happening here. And so we have all of that right here. So all we need to do is do cout I and L. Oops. So we give this a run, and we get the same exact output, that same 0 to 9. And so some people might say, oh, well, I want to output 1 to 10. And so outputting 1 to 10 is actually a little different. And it becomes the cause of what is the most notorious error in all of C++, known as the off by 1 error. So if I change this to 1, what do you think is going to happen? Answer is, I get an off by 1 error, meaning I've printed out 1 through 9, and I said less than 10. So in general, the rule with loops is if you're starting at the number 1 rather than 0, and this is true for arrays especially. If you're starting at 1, you want to go less than or equal to the number that you want. So that way we get that 1 to 10. But if you're starting at 0, you just want it less than. So that way you're displaying 10 numbers. And again, 0 through 9 is 10 numbers. So this is one of those things that throws off every beginner, and you will screw up and make an off by 1 error at least 100 times in your career. Once again, set your breakpoints. You can actually set it for after the loop, and check, your variables in local after that loop, and it should make a bit more sense. That being said, there is some other stuff you can do here. As I showed you guys earlier, this will run until it goes and is false, So when I said it will run until it is false, that means we can also control these with bools. Let's name this should run equals true. And I'm going to show you guys right now something that's called a Sentinel control loop. I'm going to comment out this for loop, and I'm going to switch back to while loops for just a moment. And I'm going to say while should run. So when I just do this variable in there and say while should run, what that actually means is while should run equals true. So when I do that, that's actually what that means. So I'm actually comparing it equal to true, which would return a true, but since the contents of it already is true, it will show up as true. And if that didn't make any sense, or if I said true too many times in the last 10 seconds, I apologize. So what we can do here is we can create int I equals 1. Oh my god. I equals 1. Cout I and bell. Let's just do I plus plus. So now when we run this, we run into that same while true error that we had before. As you can see, C++ does not care about how many numbers it spits out. It's doing exactly what we told it to do. Meanwhile, let's say we only want to spit out until 10. And let's say the number 10. So let's do this. Let's say if I is greater than 10. Now we get into how we get out of loops, and it's called break. So we'll run this. As you can see, we get that 1 through 10 like we're expecting to get. Let's talk about what break actually means. Break means that we are breaking out of this scope, the scope in the most local loop. So next lesson, we're going to be getting into what are called nested loops. Same thing as a nested if statement. So if we're more than one loop in, it will only break us out of the innermost loop. So that being said, the way that this statement becomes true, this if statement becomes true, is by increasing I here, using the I++ to iterate I every time we go through this loop. And once it becomes true, we break, and break does not mean anything in an if statement. That's a common misconception. An if statement is only one thing. There's nothing to break out of. You know, once this executes whatever payload is in between these parentheses, it breaks on its own. So when you say break, you always have to look and make sure, you know, you're not talking about getting out of an if statement. You're talking about getting out of a while or a for loop. All right, so the only other thing that I think I want to mention is that, you know, we've counted by I++, right? So let's say we want to make j equals 2, right? It's perfectly valid to say something like this. I plus equals j, and then output I. Just like that. And every time we go through the loop, it increases by 2. And so when we do that, it as you can see, I put that after the if statement, so our last output was 11 because it jumped from 9, which was true here, and then it became 11 output, and then went back up there. So some people might consider that a bug if they didn't want to see a number over 10, which means that you have to move our iteration statement above the if. So just some food for thought there. But you know, this is completely valid. We can increase that however we want. And we can do that inside of a statement like this too. We could do plus equals j if we wanted to, or plus equals 2 if we wanted to inside of a for loop. So that being said, I just wanted to familiarize you guys with that. Equally, what we can do here is we can turn should run equal to false. And so what that's going to do is that's not actually going to break out of our statement. So this is actually going to continue running and get through here And then it's going to come back up here, and while is going to go, well, should I still be running? And it looks, should run is now equal to false, and it goes, nope, I'm done, jumps out, hits that stuff. So I just wanted to give you guys this quick primer in for and while loops. Next episode is going to be nested loops, and we are going to talk about a few different data types in there. If this helped you guys out, like, subscribe, share with your friends, and I will talk with you all again very, very soon. See ya.